She asked me to let her sleep with another man. Just one night. And she asked like she was ordering takeout. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start with the quiet. The kind of quiet that settles over a marriage when you've been together long enough that the big questions have been answered. Emily and I had that quiet. 7 years married, 9 together total. We lived in a modest 2-story colonial in Worthington, just outside Columbus. Beige siding, black shutters, a mailbox that tilted slightly to the left no matter how many times I straightened it. I liked the quiet. I'd wake up at 6:15, make coffee in the machine I'd bought Emily for Christmas 3 years ago, the one with the timer that she never learned to set. She'd shuffle down around 7, hair twisted into a messy bun, wearing one of my old Ohio State t-shirts that had gone soft from too many washes. She taught 3rd grade at Riverside Elementary, and during the school year, she'd pack her lunch while I checked emails on my laptop at the kitchen island. She'd remind me about small things. Don't forget dinner with my parents Sunday, or she'd ask for simple favors. Can you pick up milk? Small things, routine things, the kind of conversations that hold a life together without anyone noticing. I was a senior software analyst at Meridian Tech, a mid-sized consulting firm downtown. Steady work, good benefits, the kind of job that didn't follow me home. I'd drive Emily's Corolla to work. Mine was newer, a Honda Civic I'd bought cash after saving for 2 years, but she preferred the way hers handled. Small sacrifices. That's what marriage was, I thought. 1,000 small sacrifices that added up to something bigger than yourself. The house was quiet in the evenings, too. Emily would grade papers at the dining room table while I worked on my laptop in the living room. Sometimes she'd put on music, usually something folky, Norah Jones or Sarah Bareilles. I'd glance up occasionally and watch her red pen move across worksheets, the way she'd unconsciously tuck a strand of hair behind her ear when she concentrated. I loved those moments. Not passionate love. That had settled into something steadier, more sustainable. Love like a well-built foundation. You don't notice it until something threatens it. The first crack appeared in September. Emily had always been close with her sister Amanda, but their relationship had shifted after Amanda's divorce the previous spring. Amanda moved back in with their parents, a temporary arrangement that was approaching month 6. She'd call Emily most nights. Long conversations that started in the kitchen and ended with Emily walking upstairs, phone pressed to her ear, her voice dropping to a whisper. I didn't think much of it at first. Sisters talk. Amanda was going through a rough time, and Emily was supportive. But I started noticing Emily's mood after those calls. She'd come back downstairs quieter, more distant. She'd look at me like she was seeing me for the first time and didn't quite like what she found. I'd try to check in with her. Everything okay? She'd brush me off with a quick response. Fine, just Amanda stuff. But her eyes would dart away when she said it. The phone calls grew longer. Emily started taking them in our bedroom with the door closed. When I'd walk upstairs to brush my teeth, I'd hear her voice through the door, animated in a way it hadn't been with me in months. Sometimes she'd laugh, a sound that used to make me smile but now just made me feel like I was missing something. October brought other changes, small ones, the kind that accumulate like dust until you realize you haven't really looked at something in weeks. Emily stopped wearing her wedding ring to bed. She'd always worn it, said she felt naked without it. Now it sat on her nightstand, a small circle of white gold that seemed to grow more prominent in its absence. She started keeping her phone face down during dinner. When it buzzed, she'd glance at it quickly, then back at me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. If I asked about it, she'd give me the same dismissive answer. Work stuff. But it was October. What 3rd grade emergencies happened at 8 p.m.? The real tell was how she set the table. Emily had always been particular about place settings, but lately, she'd been setting the table for one. She'd catch herself and grab a second plate, like she'd forgotten I existed until she heard my key in the door. I'm not a suspicious man by nature, but I am observant. It comes with the job, debugging code, finding the logic errors that break entire systems. You learn to notice when patterns shift in ways that don't make sense. Emily was shifting. She waited until after dinner to destroy our marriage. We'd had spaghetti with meat sauce, the kind I made from scratch because Emily liked the way I seasoned it with fennel and red wine. She'd complimented the meal, asked about my day, made conversation about her students. Normal Tuesday night talk that felt anything but normal. I should have known something was coming by the way she'd set the table. 2 plates, 2 forks, 2 napkins folded into perfect triangles, but only 1 wine glass. I'd reached for the bottle of Chianti to pour myself some, but she'd moved it out of reach. She explained her reasoning. I need to stay clear-headed for this. For what? I should have asked, but I didn't. After dinner, she cleared the plates with mechanical efficiency while I loaded the dishwasher. She poured herself a second glass of wine, so much for staying clear-headed, and sat back down at the table. Her voice took on a serious tone. Daniel, we need to talk. I dried my hands on the dish towel, folded it neatly, and hung it on the oven handle. Even then, I was still trying to maintain order, still believing that normal actions could preserve a normal evening. I sat across from her and tried to sound casual. Okay, what's on your mind? She took a sip of wine, then another. Her fingers drummed against the stem of the glass, a nervous habit I hadn't seen since our early dating days. She began carefully, like she'd rehearsed this. I've been thinking about us, about our marriage, about what we want. I waited. Emily had always been someone who needed time to work up to difficult topics. But there was something different about her hesitation this time. It felt calculated rather than nervous. She continued with words that sounded rehearsed. I love you, but I feel like we're just existing, going through the motions. We got married so young, Daniel. We never really explored who we were as individuals. I felt my stomach drop. What are you saying? She straightened in her chair, and I caught a glimpse of the teacher she was at work. Composed, authoritative, delivering information whether her audience wanted to hear it or not. Her words came out in a rush. I want to explore, sexually, with someone else, just once, just to see what else is out there before we commit to forever. The words hung in the air like smoke. I felt my chest tighten, but I kept my face neutral. I stated the obvious. You want to cheat on me? Her response was quick, practiced. No, I want to be honest with you. I want to explore something together, as a couple. It's called ethical non-monogamy. Ethical non-monogamy. The phrase sounded foreign in her mouth, like she'd been rehearsing it. I cut to the heart of it. Whose idea was this? She deflected. It's not anyone's idea. It's just something I've been thinking about. Something I need. But her eyes flicked away when she said it. Need. Not want. Need. Like oxygen or water or shelter. I pressed further. Who is he? She tried to avoid the question. Does it matter? I was firm. Yes. She took another sip of wine before answering. Someone I met at the conference in Cleveland last month, a teacher from another district. We've been talking. That explained the late-night phone calls, the secrecy, the way she'd started treating her phone like classified information. I needed to know the timeline. How long? She became defensive. It's not like that. We've just connected intellectually. He understands things about education that you never could. But it's made me realize what I might be missing. What she might be missing. As if 7 years of marriage was a prison sentence. I studied her face, looking for some sign of the woman I'd married. But there was something cold in her eyes now, something distant and calculating that I'd never seen before. The truth hit me. You've already decided. She backpedaled quickly. No, that's why I'm talking to you. I want your permission. Permission. like she was asking to stay out past curfew. I asked the question that would determine everything. What if I say no? She hesitated, and in that hesitation I had my answer. I stood up from the table. Emily watched me with wide eyes, like she was surprised I was capable of movement. She tried to stop me. "Daniel," I cut her off quietly. "Don't. Just don't." I walked upstairs and pulled her suitcase from the closet. I packed methodically, underwear, bras, work clothes, toiletries. Emily appeared in the doorway as I was zipping it closed. She sounded genuinely surprised. "What are you doing?" I stated my intention simply. "Taking you to your parents." She tried to negotiate. "Daniel, we can talk about this." I was resolute. "No, we can't," she continued pleading. "We should talk about this." My response was final. "No, we shouldn't." I loaded the suitcase into my car. Emily followed, still holding her wine glass, still trying to explain. She made one last attempt. "This doesn't have to end anything. This could make us stronger." I didn't respond. When I pulled into her parents' driveway, Amanda's car was already there. Of course it was. Amanda opened the door before we'd gotten out of the car. She was wearing designer jeans and a silk blouse, the kind of outfit that suggested she'd been preparing for this moment. She greeted me with false sympathy. "Danny, I'm so glad you're being mature about this." I set the suitcase on the porch and looked at Emily for what I somehow knew would be the last time as her husband. My words were quiet, but final. "You want to explore? Go explore." I walked back to my car without looking back. In my rearview mirror, I could see Amanda's arm around Emily's shoulders, already comforting her, already reinforcing whatever narrative they'd constructed. Emily had never asked what I might be missing, what I might need. The conversation had been entirely about her wants, her needs, her growth. That's when I understood that this wasn't about sex or exploration. This was about Emily choosing to become someone else, someone more like Amanda, someone who took what she wanted and called it self-discovery. And I was just collateral damage. The house feels different when you're alone by choice rather than circumstance. The silence that once felt comfortable now feels accusatory, like every empty space is asking why I wasn't enough. It's been 4 days since that conversation at the dining room table, 4 days since I packed her suitcase and drove her to her parents' house. I haven't heard from her, which surprises me. Part of me expected her to call the next morning, ready to apologize and pretend the whole thing had been temporary insanity. But the phone hasn't rung. Her key hasn't turned in the lock. And I'm starting to understand that she meant every word. I've been going to work, sitting through meetings, debugging code, maintaining the facade of normalcy. But the evenings are when the weight hits me. When I come home to a house that smells only like me, when I make dinner for one and eat it standing at the counter because sitting at our dining room table feels like visiting a crime scene. I've started sleeping in the guest room. Our bedroom still smells like Emily's perfume, that light floral scent she's worn since college. Her side of the bed still has the romance novel she was reading, a bookmark 3/4 through. She was so close to the happy ending. Tonight I find myself in her home office, a converted bedroom we'd planned to make into a nursery someday. Always some reason to postpone the future we'd planned together. In the bottom drawer, underneath old report cards and teaching magazines, I find a journal I didn't know she kept. I shouldn't read it. But my marriage is already over, so what's one more boundary crossed? The entries start 3 years ago, not long after Amanda's wedding. Emily's handwriting is neat, controlled. May 15th. Went to Amanda's engagement party today. She looked so happy, so radiant. I found myself feeling envious, which is terrible. Daniel loves me, I know he does. But when did our love become so quiet? When did we stop looking at each other the way Derek looks at Amanda? June 3rd, Amanda called, upset about wedding planning. But even stressed, she sounds more alive than I feel most days. She keeps asking if I'm sure I'm happy, if I'm sure Daniel is the one. I told her of course I'm sure. But when I hung up, I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe having a plan isn't the same as having a passion. I flipped forward, skipping months of similar entries. Emily documenting her growing dissatisfaction, her increasing awareness of what she saw as missing. But she never talked to me about any of it. Never gave me a chance to address her concerns. Then I find the entry that changes everything. March 8th. Amanda's getting divorced. She came over today crying, but also somehow relieved. She said she realized she couldn't pretend anymore, couldn't keep living a lie just because it was comfortable. She asked me if I ever felt trapped, if I ever wondered what would have happened if I'd made different choices. I told her no, but I was lying. I think about it all the time now. Amanda said something that stuck with me. You can love someone and still outgrow them. Is that what's happening to us? Am I outgrowing Daniel? Or am I just being influenced by Amanda's bitterness? I don't know anymore. All I know is that I used to feel excited about coming home to him, and now it just feels like coming home. I close the journal and sit back in Emily's chair. Emily didn't wake up one morning and decide to blow up our marriage. This has been building for years, this sense of dissatisfaction, this feeling that she was settling for less than she deserved. And I never saw it coming because she never told me. I think about all the things I did for her over the years. How I worked overtime to help pay off her student loans. How I skipped trips so we could afford her summer classes. How I picked up freelance work so she could buy the car she wanted. None of it mattered. None of it counted because I'd made the mistake of thinking that love was about building something together, not about maintaining constant excitement. I supported her dreams, her career, her goals. But I wasn't enough because I wasn't new anymore. I wasn't a mystery to be solved. I was just Daniel. Steady, reliable, predictable Daniel. The woman I married had wanted steady. The woman she became wanted passion, excitement, the kind of love that made you forget to eat. She wanted what Amanda had convinced her she was missing, even though Amanda's pursuit of that love had left her broke and bitter. I walk downstairs and pour myself a glass of Jameson. The house is so quiet I can hear the refrigerator humming, the floors settling. These are the sounds of my life now. Emily wanted to explore what else was out there. Now she'll have all the time in the world to find out. Jason Miller's office smells like leather and disappointment. He's been practicing family law for 15 years, long enough to recognize the look of a man whose world has imploded, but who's trying to hold it together. He leaned back in his chair and asked the obvious question. I have to ask, are you sure this is what you want? Have you considered counseling? Jason and I were roommates junior year at Ohio State. He knows I don't make decisions lightly, but he's also a divorce attorney who's seen too many people make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. I was direct with him. She asked me to let her sleep with another man. She didn't ask if I wanted counseling. She asked for permission to cheat and called it growth. He nodded, making notes. Okay. Given Ohio's no-fault divorce laws, this should be straightforward. No kids, house in both names, similar income levels. Do you want to try for a settlement or go to court? I didn't hesitate. Settlement. I don't want this drawn out. He approved of my choice. Smart. Now let's talk about assets. I spend the next hour walking Jason through the financial archaeology of our marriage. The house we bought together, though I paid the entire down payment. The cars, hers financed, mine paid off. The retirement accounts, the savings, the credit card debt that's mostly hers from furniture and weekend trips. Jason made an observation as he reviewed my financial records. You've been financially responsible, almost overly so. Your wife, less so. It's true. Emily had always been careless with money, treating our joint accounts like an endless resource. I'd learned to pay the bills first, then let her spend whatever was left. I thought I was being a good husband. Now I realize I was just enabling her to avoid consequences. He continued explaining my options. The good news is that Ohio recognizes separate property. Anything you owned before marriage stays yours, but we can argue for adjustments based on who contributed what. I tried to take the high road. I don't want to fight over money. I just want out. Jason set down his pen and looked at me seriously. Daniel, I get that you're hurt, but don't let your emotions cost you financially. You earned this money. You don't owe her a reward for breaking your marriage. He's right. I think about the overtime I worked to pay off her student loans, the vacation I didn't take so we could afford her car payment, the freelance projects I took on to build our emergency fund. I asked for his professional opinion. What do you recommend? He laid out a practical strategy. We push for a separation agreement that reflects actual contributions. You keep the house. You paid the down payment. She can take her car, her belongings, half the checking account. But the retirement accounts, the savings, those get divided based on who contributed what. It makes sense. It's fair, even if Emily won't see it that way. I made my decision. Do it! Jason started drafting papers while I sat in his office, staring out at downtown Columbus. My phone buzzed. Emily's name appeared on the screen, the first time she's contacted me since I dropped her off 6 days ago. Her text was brief. Can we talk? This doesn't have to be so dramatic. I showed the message to Jason, who raised an eyebrow and suggested, buyer's remorse? I agreed. Probably. She's realizing that actions have consequences. I texted back, we're filing for divorce. Talk to your lawyer. The response came immediately. You're being ridiculous. I never said I wanted a divorce. I wanted to have a conversation. Jason laughed without humor. Amazing how cheating becomes having a conversation when there are legal consequences. I don't respond to Emily's text. What would be the point? She's made her choice. Now she gets to live with it. I asked about timing. How long will this take? Jason gave me the timeline. In Ohio, there's a minimum 60-day waiting period. Given that you don't have kids and you're agreeing on terms, probably 3 to 4 months total. 3 to 4 months to legally end 7 years of marriage. It seems both too long and impossibly short. Jason handed me papers to review, the petition for dissolution, the financial disclosures, the proposed separation agreement. Legal language that reduces our life together to assets and liabilities. He assured me about next steps. I'll file these tomorrow. The sheriff will serve her within a few days. I drive home thinking about Emily's text. This doesn't have to be so dramatic. As if filing for divorce after your wife asks to sleep with another man is an overreaction. When I get home, I find a bottle of wine on my porch with a note. I'm sorry it came to this. Maybe we can be friends someday. I pour the wine down the sink and throw the bottle in recycling. Then I change the locks. If Emily wants to explore what else is out there, she can start by exploring what it's like to be completely cut off from the life she threw away. The papers are served on a Thursday. Jason calls to tell me Emily's attorney has already reached out, wanting to discuss terms. She's not happy with the separation agreement. I asked him directly, what's her issue? He explained her position. She thinks you're being vindictive. She wants 50% of everything, including your premarital savings. She also wants spousal support. I actually laugh. She wants me to pay her for cheating on me. Jason confirmed grimly. Essentially, yes. Her attorney is arguing that she sacrificed her earning potential by supporting your career. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What contributions? I paid off her student loans. I've been covering the mortgage for 7 years. She makes $38,000 teaching, I make $65,000. The math doesn't support her argument. Jason agreed but had more troubling news. I know that, but there's something else. She's been telling people that you abandoned her, that you kicked her out without warning, that you're being emotionally abusive by refusing to talk to her. The words hit like a physical blow. Emily is rewriting history, painting herself as the victim rather than the architect of our marriage's destruction. I felt the need to remind him of the facts. She asked me to let her sleep with another man. She had an emotional affair for months, and now I'm the bad guy for refusing to enable it. Jason explained the challenge we faced. That's what she's claiming, and unfortunately her version is simpler to explain. My husband threw me out gets more sympathy than I asked my husband to let me cheat, and he said no. I think about Emily's friends, her coworkers, our neighbors. How many have heard her version? How many think I'm the kind of man who abandons his wife? I decided it was time to reveal my trump card. Jason, I need to tell you something. I have proof of the affair. Emails, text messages. I've been documenting everything since October. He perked up immediately. What kind of proof? I laid out my evidence. Email exchanges between Emily and her friend, screenshots of texts, photos she sent him. I also recorded a phone conversation between Emily and Amanda where Amanda encourages her to find someone better and suggests I'd never have the balls to leave. Jason was impressed. Ohio is a one-party consent state for recordings, so that's admissible. But why didn't you tell me about this earlier? I explained my reasoning. Because I didn't want to be vindictive. I wanted to handle this with dignity, but if she's going to lie about what happened, if she's going to make me the villain. Jason finished my thought. Then we use the truth. Can you get me copies? I promised him I'll email them tonight. I spend the evening organizing my evidence. Every suspicious text, every late-night call, every lie. I told myself I was being paranoid that a good husband would trust his wife, but some part of me knew I was going to need proof. The emails are the worst part. Emily writing to David Mitchell, her teacher friend from Cleveland, about how unfulfilled she feels, how she's wasting her youth on someone who doesn't appreciate her passion. David encouraging her, telling her she deserves better. There are photos too. Emily in lingerie I'd never seen, poses clearly meant to seduce. The timestamps show they were taken during lunch breaks at school, sent while I was at work believing she was grading papers. The recorded phone call is the most damning. Amanda coaching Emily on how to approach me about opening the marriage. Amanda's voice on the recording was calculating. You have to frame it as growth, as something you're doing together, not something you're doing to him. Men like Daniel need to feel like they're in control, even when they're not. Emily had sounded uncertain, but what if he says no? Amanda's response was brutal. He won't. He's too afraid of losing you, and if he does say no, then you know he's not worth keeping. I email everything to Jason, along with a timeline of Emily's behavior changes. My phone rings as I'm finishing. Emily's name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. She calls again, then again. On the fourth call, I answer. My voice was cold when I answered. What do you want, Emily? She sounded desperate. Daniel, please, we need to talk. This is getting out of hand. I was blunt. You mean the divorce? Yes, that tends to happen when you ask your husband to let you cheat. She tried to reframe it. I never asked you to let me cheat. I asked you to consider opening our marriage. I wasn't buying it. Is there a difference? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you wanted to have intimacy with someone else without consequences. She gasped. I never swore at her during our marriage, but I'm not her husband anymore. Her voice became small. That's not fair. I told her the truth. You're right. What's not fair is you trying to rewrite history. You're making me sound like a monster. I'm just documenting it. She sounded confused. What does that mean? I laid out my position clearly. It means I have proof, Emily. Emails, texts, photos, recordings. I have evidence of your affair, your lies, your manipulation. I have Amanda's voice coaching you on how to break up our marriage. The silence stretched so long I think she's hung up. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. You recorded me. I explained the legality. I recorded conversations I was part of in my own home while you were planning to betray me. She tried to find fault. That's illegal. I corrected her. It's perfectly legal in Ohio, and it's all going to be part of our divorce proceedings if you keep lying about what happened. Her voice cracked. I never meant for it to go this far. I wasn't sympathetic. Yes, you did. You just didn't think there would be consequences. She made one last plea. Can we meet, please? I offered her a way out. No, but I'll make you a deal. Stop lying about what happened. Stop trying to make me the villain. Stop fighting the divorce. She pressed, and then what? I gave her clear terms. Then stop fighting. Sign the papers, take your fair share, and move on. Stop trying to rewrite history. Her voice was small and broken. I don't want a divorce. My response was final. Then you shouldn't have asked me to let you cheat. I hang up and block her number. Then I pour myself wine and sit in my house, listening to the silence. Tomorrow, Jason will present our evidence. Emily will understand that actions have consequences, that some things can't be undone with tears and explanations. She wanted to explore what else was out there. Now she'll have to do it alone, with everyone knowing exactly why her marriage ended. What? 6 months later, I'm a different man living in the same house. Not better or worse, just different. The divorce was finalized 3 weeks ago, a brief hearing where Emily sat across the courtroom looking smaller than I remembered, her lawyer arguing half-heartedly for terms everyone knew she wouldn't get. The evidence I'd gathered made the case simple. Emily got her car, her belongings, and 30% of our joint assets, less than she'd wanted, more than she deserved. I kept the house, my retirement accounts, and most of my dignity. Her reputation didn't fare as well. The truth has a way of spreading in suburban neighborhoods. Emily's affair became coffee shop gossip, then social media speculation, then confirmed fact when Amanda drunkenly defended her sister's right to explore at the Hendersons' July 4th party. By August, everyone knew that Emily Brooks had asked her husband to let her sleep with another man and been surprised when he said no. I take no pleasure in her social exile, but I take comfort in the fact that the truth is finally public. No one looks at me with pity anymore. They know exactly what happened and who was responsible. The house has been transformed room by room. I kept furniture that felt like mine and donated the rest. Emily's decorative touches, throw pillows, scented candles, inspirational wall art, all gone. What remains is cleaner, more masculine, more honest about who lives here. I've taken the master bedroom back, though I bought a new mattress and bedding. Some ghosts are easier to exorcise than others. The guest room is now my office, with the computer setup I've been wanting for years. Emily always complained that expensive electronics were wasteful. Now I have a dual monitor system and a mechanical keyboard that clicks satisfyingly. Work has been good to me. The promotion I'd been angling for came through in August, senior systems architect with a $15,000 raise. My boss told me I seemed more focused lately, more confident. She's right. I am. I've been working out again, something I'd let slide during the final years of my marriage. Emily used to make jokes about men who suddenly started going to the gym, calling it a midlife crisis. Now I realize she was uncomfortable with the idea of me changing, of becoming someone who might have options. The gym membership is already paying dividends. I've lost the soft layer of domestic contentment, replaced it with lean strength. It's meditative, the repetitive motion of improvement. Progress you can measure in pounds and reps rather than feelings. I'm not dating yet, though I've been approached. Sarah from accounting has made it clear she's available, and my neighbor Lisa, recently divorced herself, has been finding excuses to chat whenever I'm working in the yard. Both are attractive, intelligent women who seem to appreciate the stability I represent. But I'm not ready, not because I'm still in love with Emily, but because I'm still learning to trust my own judgment. I married a woman who seemed perfect for me, who claimed to want the same quiet life I was building. I was wrong about all of it. So I'm taking my time, learning to be alone without being lonely, discovering what I actually want rather than what I think I should want. I've been reading more books Emily used to dismiss as boring, currently working through a biography of Warren Buffett and a book on behavioral economics. I've started cooking more adventurous meals. Last week I made duck confit that turned out perfectly, a small triumph I savored alone. The phone calls from Emily stopped months ago. The last one came in September, 3 weeks before the divorce was finalized. She was crying, asking if there was any way we could start over. I told her I'd already started over and it didn't include her. I heard through Jason that she's still living with her parents, still teaching, still dealing with the social fallout. David Mitchell apparently ended their relationship when he realized she was serious about leaving me for him. He'd been happy to be the exciting other man, but had no interest in being the responsible new husband. I feel nothing about this. Emily is simply irrelevant to my life now, a closed chapter I don't need to reread. Tonight, I'm cooking dinner for myself and Lisa. Not a date. She's helping me install new light fixtures, and I offered to make us both something to eat. But it's the first time I've cooked for another person since Emily left. Lisa is different from Emily in fundamental ways. She's older, 42 to my 34, with teenage kids and a practical view of relationships. She doesn't need constant validation or excitement. She appreciates competence, reliability, the kind of steady presence that Emily came to see as inadequate. We might become something more, or we might not. The difference is that I'm not desperate for the answer. I'm not looking for someone to complete me. I'm looking for someone who enhances an already complete life. 6 months ago, Emily asked me to let her sleep with another man. Just one night, she said, just to see what else was out there. I gave her forever to find out. And I discovered that what I was looking for was never out there at all. It was always right here, waiting for me to stop looking for permission to claim it. The house is quiet tonight, but it's the kind of quiet that feels full of possibility rather than empty of purpose. Tomorrow I'll wake up in my own bed, in my own house, living my own life on my own terms. Emily got her exploration, I got my freedom. I know which of us got the better deal. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.